All right. Peace and blessings, family. Sequestra.
Hey, greetings? How's everyone
Greetings. Peace
doing
and
today?
blessings.
Good,
Good, good.
good.
Hey, happy
Voices
Sunday.
from wise women. Today we're going to talk about living outside the box. We're going to share our journey of how we live
Woo.
outside the box. So, of course, Naila is going to be one of my guests today. So I'm really excited about her because definitely Naila has always lived outside the box. I've lived outside the box. Well, are you going to be in? Are you going to be in or out? Or
I'm gonna be out. I'm just gonna be
oh,
talking
okay,
to
so it's
y'all.
going to be real.
I'm excited.
All right, so Naila
What?
and I will talk about living outside the box. So today I prepared. I pulled a card. I definitely did my sage, candles. We're all ready to go. So the card we pulled today was yes. As I say yes to life, life says yes to me. Life mirrors my thoughts.
Yes.
As I keep my thoughts positive, life brings to me only good experiences. So, yes, definitely say yes to that. So, I want to tell everybody to go to Earth
Yes.
Mama Network, subscribe. In the chat, if you can put your comments, and we'll answer any questions that you have. We'll also answer questions afterwards. So, if you want to ask us or chime in, please do that. So, my word today is what good is it to think outside the box if you lack the courage outside the box? So Naila and I have definitely lived outside the box. So Naila, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit to people that don't know who you are, and then we'll go into living outside the box.
Hi, everybody. This is Naila Baraki. I am a holistic holistic health practitioner. Under that umbrella is I'm a psychologist, mental health counselor, massage therapist, a naturopath. I wear a few hats, and that's why I've been living out of the box because I I was I had to go toward alternative living to be all the things that I am, but I'm a healer, just to put it mildly and briefly, and a journey woman.
Right, exactly. Let's go into living
Yeah.
outside the box. So when did you know you were different, Naila? When did you know? You're a little girl and you said things you saw
Oh,
things differently, or when did you first notice you were a little different? Because I think to living outside the box, you do have to be a little different than everyone else.
well, I didn't think being a tomboy was so different, but
Mm-hmm.
I did think the things that I was interested in that they call it nerdy now, but just being in nature and curious about that, just curious about people living and how they lived, and you know those were a lot of conversations that people weren't having when they were kids. I
Right.
just kind of enjoyed being um out in nature, and I truly knew I was out the box when I was working and didn't fit into the work culture.
Right, right.
you know
Mhm.
uh, Curiosity kind of lets you know that you're a little different, but you do find like minds, but they're not everywhere. Sometimes you think that the things you think and do are everybody's doing that,
Exactly.
but then you find out that
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That they
So
don't.
I think that was, and not only the first job, second, the third.
On your job.
You get along with people, but huh?
Right. I think for me, when I was a child, I always looked at things differently. I was always around older people and kind of listened to their experiences and what was going on, and just would when I would see someone being treated unjust or bullied or whatever, it always bothered me, and I stepped in or something. So I always, from when I was a child, just saw things differently or looked at things differently. Like he was saying, young kids would be doing one thing, and I'd be looking at something entirely different and kind of analyzing and asking my parents about different things as well. So I think as a young child, a lot of times parents can tell that their child's going to be a little different than like the norm. And like you said, when you start your jobs, you definitely start seeing things are a little different, of course, for sure. So as you were growing up, did you have a teacher or a guru or anything like that that kind of helped you as you were having these experiences, or did you just do it on your own?
Well, we don't do all this on our, I'm thinking, when I was growing up, my dad, who has that, African and Native American background, and my mom's family in North Carolina, they had farms and they did all of these natural things. My father used to make soaps and all kinds of stuff. He
Oh,
used to make
wow.
cone incense. He used to make his own incense, and he used to tell us stories about African history that I never heard in school.
Right.
Matter of fact, I repeated it in school, and the teacher kind of dismissed it. The next morning, my father was dressed and ready. I thought, where are you going? He said, we're going to your school. So he went to the school and he told the teacher, he said to the teacher, I understand that you told my daughter that, you dismissed what she was saying. And she said, we don't teach that here, so it doesn't, it doesn't matter. So my father said, I understand your ignorance.
Right.
But as long as you live, don't ever tell my child that that something doesn't just because you don't know about it. And I thought that was real interesting. And down south, they use herbs for healing. I had an Aunt Nan. She used to walk, she had a medicine sack. Anything going on with you in the country, the healers jumped out and they started working on you. So I wanted to go to medical school because I wanted to learn this healing, but it wasn't there. The closest I could find to was naturopathic medicine. Herbal medicine, hands-on. I love feet. Don't ask me why, but you already know the stories. Feet talk to me. I know what's going on with you when I touch hands on the feet. But that took me on this side journey. I didn't go to medical school because I felt there was so much missing. There was something lacking. They didn't look at how you were feeling. Just it seemed like they just had a set map, and we're treating the physical, and this is what's going on. This is in the early 70s. So that told me, dad and mom and relatives, that told me that there was something out there, and maybe they didn't want me to know or want us to know about, but I wanted to learn about it. I wanted to learn about it. So I think that started off with the journey. And then back in the early 70s, we had a place in Harlem called the Tree of Life. Now, there may be some listeners that may remember the Tree of Life in Harlem. The Tree of Life in Harlem, we had Dr. Moore, and they called him the hobo doctor. Now, he knew how to heal everything. Yeah. Plus, he give you a Malcolm X stood in front of there, and spoke. Dick Gregory used to come through there, and speak. So now, and they had all of these natural alternative books, what they call it that now, but they were just healers, books that had herbs, you learn how to sprout your own food. We had a book called Welcome into the 21st Century or Survival to the 21st Century. We had all of that going on, which supported the ideal that there's another way. And I wanted to know more about that. So I got a lot of support there, but taking that from there into the workplace or into the mainstream, it was like, oh yeah, she's a little strange.
Right.
You don't do that there.
Right.
And it was weird because their grandma did it, a lot of them.
Right. And so as you started to go into your experience about living outside the box, did you find out that your dress changed, or how you adorn yourself, or your jewelry, or anything changed as you started moving toward that? Because I know for me it did.
Well, I used to wear African clothes all the time because it made me feel like the authentic me. Not that I wasn't myself, but that there's part of me that was not there being seen. That when I put on my African garb, which I still wear, it made me feel like I was part of home, because my family always talked about that. We always had some cloth or, ritual or something, and stories, lots of, about the culture, Igbo specifically.
Somebody just
so yeah, it made me feel different.
Naila, someone just commented they wanted to know what was the name of that book you just mentioned, the 21st. The book that you just
mentioned? It was called Survival into the 21st Century, and excuse my pronunciation, but I think it was Victorious. It was like a Greek name, but it was a pink and white book. I'm sure it's still out there. Right. So Victor, let me.
I can't remember the name, but I remember that. Right.
I'm gonna look, and get the spelling. I'm gonna get the spelling for you. We had, and that book talked about Rama yoga, hatha yoga, and it talked about breath work, wheatgrass sprouting. It talked about a lot of things, and we did that. We had access to that, and for people who couldn't buy the books, they can come in and read the books. And they put it down after several years, and it remained a parking lot on 125th Street for like this, just so we wouldn't have that access to it. But it was an amazing thing. You packed your nuts, your sprouts. You had workshops, they had classes. You had Dr. Love, had back then, and then you had Queen Afua back down in the 70s. So this has always been going on, but it seemed like it was an underground movement because it was not well accepted.
Somebody
we didn't have this type of access to the internet.
Somebody was asking me about kombucha, and I started busting out laughing because I remember everybody had these little hippies used to have the kombucha in the large metal glass pouch. They were growing their own kombucha from the mushrooms, and they would try to give you the mushrooms, and they would grow it. And so I'd be like, no, I'll pass. So now everything that we used to do is now mainstream. But when we were doing it, it was not mainstream.
Yeah.
Anything. But remember, celestial seasons or celestial teas were so hippies. These hippies were doing celestial, and then somebody like Lipton purchased the company, but it was started out as these hippies doing it, and we would go and buy these teas.
Yeah, they were in Colorado.
Yes. So I mean, Dr. Bonner's, all that stuff. That was.
I went there. I went to visit.
Of course you did. I know you.
I went to visit them. Huh?
I know you did.
Yeah, What's going on? I had to go. I went and saw it, and I went to, hang out with
them. Right. So I know that as we were going through that, I mean, everything changed. Like I changed my dress. I think for me, I started meditating when I became pregnant. All of a sudden, it was like something was like, you got to start meditating. So I started just when I first got into meditation when I was pregnant, and just kind of continued that on. And then I started thinking about, my diet and everything, and tried to become a vegetarian years ago. And I didn't have the support. And, in Chicago, it's really meat and potatoes. So I didn't have the support I needed. So I kind of went back and ate a little meat. And then when my daughter got 16, and that's when we really got into it. And I've been a vegetarian, and that's 30 something years now. But I just felt like I was always looking for something different, or something that was not outside the norm. And that also, when you do that, so I'm telling people, if you're interested in living outside the box, a lot of times people are going to shy away. They don't understand, and it's like I hear this little spirit saying, okay, like I said to me, like, grow locks, and I'm like, this was back in the 80s. I'm like, locks? What does that mean? And I had to kind of research, and I started growing my little locks or what have you. And then same thing happened. I had locks, and something says, shave your head. So then I shaved my head. So now I'm wearing my head bald. But it's like I really listen to the spirit, and it tells me to do these different things. And from that, I've had great experiences from listening to the spirit. Now, I wish I had the spirit that's telling me to travel as much as you have traveled. I haven't had that, but I move back and forth. Of course, you know me, back and forth across the country. So people said they got me in their phone book, and I just have like in pencil, because they don't put me in pen, because I travel back and forth and back and forth. But I feel like the north wind blowing or something, and I said, "Whoop, gotta go," and then I move. So I'm really thinking that probably came from a nomadic tribe, the way I like to move back and forth across the country. But I know for you, you always had a base. You always had a base. Now you would travel, but you always had a base.
Yeah.
But when you got ready to travel, what was it that made you get up and go and travel? Because you've been even when Omar was little, I think you said you went to Mexico and took Omar, and he was a child. So what made you get up and do that traveling?
Well, I'm going to backtrack a minute to when I was like in the late 60s, when I had my African garb, and, I was curious, and I came home with my nose pierced, and my parents, my father was like, they want to know, where did they go wrong? I mean, and oh Lord, people start praying, she went too far. Not only is she a little different, but, she must have the box. Now we must have overlooked that. But, so what started me traveling was I read, I read about it. I've talked to people, but I wanted to go and see. I wanted to go and learn. I wanted to know, all of my travel consists of, how do people heal? How do they love? What are they eating? Because at the Tree of Life in those early 70s, I was a vegan. I was so annoying. I even wanted to see what color were your bowels because I had we studied that if it's dark and whatever it's sink and or it's flowed, it's clean, it's all of that stuff. It was my father was like, I was running him. He's like, what the hell is wrong with you? But so that started me traveling and just wanting to see the world. I mean, even traveling from New York to North Carolina for my summers, that was a different world.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like a totally different planet. Everything was different. I mean, I got laughed at down there because, they had chickens, live chickens. I was feeding the chickens. My grandma told you, make friends with them. But, I never thought about them as in the same content as the ones that in the package in New York. So, it was different. So I was I'm like, is that different New York to North Carolina? What does the world look like? And I wanted to experience that. So that took me on the journey from New York. That was the beginning. Plus the naturopath school that they had in New York, which a lot of people don't know, they had a naturopath school in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
They could get accreditation then, and here it is 40 plus years later, and there's still no accredited program. So that definitely took me on the road because I was determined.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think too, when you're on this journey, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And so a lot of times teachers will come into our lives and will teach us certain things, and then we just kind of move on. So I've been very, very lucky to have someone from the rainforest come through, Tibetan monks, different Native American people that have come through, and then just kind of each one teaches me like a little something that I add to my tools that I use. And so that's why I have different rituals, different ceremonies, and what have you, because I've had these different teachers that kind of just come through and kind of impart that, that wisdom on you, and then they kind of move off to where they were, and then you have that information. So I've been very lucky to have those kind of experiences. So I know that you probably have had those same kind of experience, like you talked about the Tree of Life, and I know some of those brothers that were part of that, and then some of the experience you were able to have in life. Mm-hmm. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Because some things you can't share. So some things you can share.
You really can't share. But I mean, one of the things, in the places that I visit, I was there was always, just like in the South, there's always prayer, which is a ritual. But when I left and started, going to other places and learning about healing, they also had rituals that I learned about. And they had what they call now aromatherapy, but they had oils from the land and from the flowers. And they all had a purpose. And so I started learning about aromatherapy and, and oils and, and how to use them for, sacred things and protection, because back then I think we had Florida water. Remember? The Florida water.
Florida water here.
The Florida water was used.
Florida water. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have it. My dad used to use it. Back then doing the rituals, I was like, you know what? I don't know what's wrong with these people, but I'm a child. I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna learn. But I learned, the value of a ritual. It's not that we don't have direct connection with God or whatever other people by whatever names people call it. It's just that rituals, empower, they give us that feeling of empowerment, as we, approach that, that most sacred belief or come for understanding. You want to come, and centered. So I found that, okay, I could use some lavender oil and even the flowers, to approach. I began to learn about that. And when I was in California, I sold oil, I was selling oils, sacred oils. And even today, some of the oils that I had, you still can't get because, again, I go places out of the country and and get them.
Well, some of
Even
the
clothing,
oil,
the sacred clothing, I used to.
continue. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, I was going to say some of the
Brought me
oils.
into Guatemala.
Mhm. No, I was going to say some of the oils that you had are from places that are under siege now, and so now you're not able to get those oils anymore because that beautiful purple oil.
Yeah.
I've never, ever, ever seen one like that since the time I used to purchase them from you. That was a beautiful oil, purple. Just
Yeah.
wanted to look at the oil. It was so
Yeah.
beautiful.
And you know what? And they never branched it. And the colors, I mean, you can't recreate it.
No.
And I don't know if we'll ever have those oils again, because what's happened in the rainforest, what has happened, you know, in different countries, these things aren't available to us. Even some of the oils from all the fires, you know, burning, you know, so those flowers, maybe they could be reproduced, but you know, we can't get them. And then then came in the early 80s, came Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another initiation into healing, and it definitely in the 80s it was not popular.
Mm-hmm.
And Shaktipat energy was not popular, you know. So these are initiations and different tools to assist us on the journey, you know, in healing. So I'm just, like you said, and the Native Americans, the Native American ritual, the Storshka. Remember the Native American in California that came from the borders of Mexico. They came over and they were doing, you know, their ritual dance and, you know, and healing. So it's everywhere. You know, it's just that back then it wasn't as readily available, you know, or popular as it is now.
Right.
And even now, people are like,
right. And I think those shops that used to exist, sometimes they don't exist anymore. But I remember I would get with you and we would go to all these different shops, the Native American shops and the witches shops, and you know, all different kinds of places we would go to. And I remember this lady was working on she was working on a Native American headpiece, and I was like, oh my gosh. She's like, don't touch it. I was like, whoa, okay. I wasn't gonna touch it, I was just coming near it. But they were it was really, really interesting to see how they did their process and how we were able to go in and out of those. And I think one of the things when you're talking about living outside the box, it's about being respectful to other people's cultures and their rituals. And I think we were allowed to go in places because we were very respectful of what they had going on, and we were not trying to dominate whatever they had on, but just being respectful and then sitting back and asking questions and then learning from what they had to share with us. So I really do appreciate you allowing me to tag along with you. And it used to be an all-day tag along show, but I learned a lot from you, you know, just being open. And Naila would take you, she'll start in the morning, you might not get back to midnight, and by the time you got back, you've got to learn a lot of different things, and some things were like, you know, so it was always very exciting hanging out with you, you know. Yeah, and I think also we take on a different vibe. Different vibe. Like Naila's house was always like really zen and kind of cool, but she always had a lot of animals, but it was always very cool. And
yes.
A lot of animals. Plus she had a parrot named Garuda.
Yeah, I had, yes. Garuda.
Yes.
I used to ask people, I asked you and Jam, I asked people to take care of Garuda while I was traveling, and I didn't, you know, because I'm in it, I didn't think it was, I see your face, but and thank you, because y'all did take care of Garuda, but Garuda, her own pedestal, that she said she was a big, beautiful bird, but she was dangerous, she was not friendly, and I appreciate the sacrifice. I had a Garuda, I had a Doberman, I had a little husky. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
She didn't care for women.
No, no, and you have to surgically sex an animal, the bird, to find out what they are. But it was clear that Garuda must have been a girl, because if you came in
Right.
with a high tone voice and your energy, if your energy was not right, Garuda would kind of like, whoa, what was me? What was you? And I was like, what's the matter, Garuda? Oh no. I was like, wow. And I would, kind of, kindly, but they had to go.
Yeah.
Couldn't stay.
Yeah.
Because the energy, listen, if you have a pet, pay attention to the energy, because they know, just like
Mhm.
babies know, the animals know. So yeah, I had a little, uh, of my friends, and unfortunately, I brought a couple of them to other people's house, and that wasn't so welcoming. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't quite, you call it living out the box, but I thought it was okay because
Right.
they were with me. But no, unfortunately, they weren't. They weren't always welcome.
Right. Right. Exactly. I know Gruder. I love Gruder because when you would come by and maybe you had a man with you and you come and Gruder, when she see you, she look, kind of like whatever. And if she see him, she'd be like, oh. I was like,
Yeah. She saw your man and he had a nice velvety voice. You would
yeah,
go, oh, hello. You know. Yeah. She didn't get that from me, but she had her own
yeah, right.
intelligence. She was a Trace Maria
When you look,
parrot. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Let me see if there's any more comments here. Oh, okay. So she was asking, do you have, somebody want to know our social media names. So mine is Shaquestra Satawi. And Naila, do you have Facebook or Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on all social media, and it's my name. I think I might get a little fancy on Instagram in the near future, but when I started, it was just I put my name in because it's me. But then
Yeah.
after a while, I started see people come on, and they had adorable names and
Right.
tags and everything, and
I know. I'm like, I just
so I said
name.
I might get with that. My name, my website, everything is just with my name. But there is a N Baraki with a lower, what do you call that? The lower line,
Yeah, lowercase.
which is a fake account. It's not me. They're even using my picture, but it's a fake account. Mine is just N Baraki on Instagram and Naeem Baraki on Facebook. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna get me a cute little handle soon.
So I'm thinking about like,
what's so funny, Sequestra?
I'm just because I know you. I think about how we reinvent ourselves. Like every decade, like I'm reinventing. Like now my head is shaved. Before that was locks. Before that was something else. So now it's like shaved head, and I'm really feeling comfortable and getting back into the flowing clothes. Remember, I used to wear flowing clothes all the time. So I'm really getting back into that and getting away from kind of corporate.
But you were on stage, Dolly.
Huh?
Yeah, but you were on stage.
I was on stage.
Sequestra. I mean, do people know that you're an amazing poet and entertainer? Huh?
I haven't done that in a while.
Your clothes flowed, your words flowed.
Yeah, back in the
what?
day.
Oh,
I gotta get
back. You gotta get back. You gotta get back, honey. People knew it wasn't flowing.
Yes,
so
right.
I'm jumping in real quick. Y'all see me jump. It's like I'm giving y'all information. So the book you talked about, I believe I shared it, and it looked like it's something that's available on Amazon. Survival into the 21st Century, Planetary.
Okay, because I put it in the.
I put it in the comments already. When you talked about that, I showed the name of the book and where they can get it.
Good.
Somebody asked for that book. And then another sister did ask for your social media, so I told them on Facebook your Facebook ones. And then another sister is asking, what advice do you have for 30-year-olds in this day and time? So this is coming from a young sister. And the only thing I'm gonna add before I pop out again is your names. What is the origins of your names? That's it.
Okay. All right. So 30-year-old, what does 30-year-old want to do? That's the whole thing. I think what is Hakeem Madhubuti said, the best way to survive an alien culture is to live your own. I think when you live who you are, I have always been respected by everywhere I go, but I've always been rooted in my culture. African culture. That's my first, when I do anything, how does this affect Black people? And I think when people know that's who you are, that you don't have any problems. I think when you go back and forth and slide, in between the fences or whatever, that you have an issue. But I think when people know who you are, you never have any problems with anybody. I think people know who Naila is. I think people know who I am. And so when they come to us, they know you have to come correct, because we're not the sisters that you're going to talk crazy to. I've never had anybody, at least to my face, I've never had a brother call me a bitch. I've never had anybody say anything when I walk down the street. Brothers are very respectful when I walk through them. But part of it has to do with the fact that I always come with respect first. And I think when you come with respect or carry that I am respectful to you, people will be respectful to you as well. In terms of living outside the box, once again, it's just being who you are. And it's not easy to be who you are, because you will lose friends. You will have your family saying, what is going on or what's happening? But you will feel good inside yourself. Yes. And the teachers will come to show you whatever it is that you want to learn. Naila, you can share, what you like to say to a 30-year-old.
Well, yeah, as a therapist, I see a lot of late 20s and 30-year-olds, and I know that, the journey is not easy for you at this time, because really you're looking for your identity. You are actively, working on who you are. And one of the good things that I've learned to share, that I can share with you, is that begin to look at your preferences, begin to look at the things that you want to do, things you like, versus come on, let's go on over here. Begin to learn how to say no. You don't always have to explain why you're making a decision about what you want to do, as long as you're happy with it. Because some people want you to qualify your decision. It's sort of like, no, I don't want to do that, girl. And then you give them your explanation. And then they say, but we sisters, we friends, come on and do this. But you know what? If you're happy, say you're happy with your decision, and let that be. This is the beginning of learning how to develop an identity, because you don't just get it, because we come with the accrued stuff of the ancestors, relatives, friends, things that we inherit vicariously, comments, conversations that don't, things that don't serve you. Begin to think about, what doesn't serve me anymore? I used to be that way, I used to do that. No judgment, beat yourself up because you was a certain way, things you didn't know. There's always stuff to learn. Sequestra and I are still learning. We're still, Sequestra's bald now, okay? I hadn't been bald, but, I've had an afro down to my shoulders. I had the poof braids. I had the straight wig with the hair going across, and I had to throw that away. I looked like I had lost my mind. But, and sometimes I have curly hair, whatever, because I think it's fun, but doesn't change that I know who I am.
Yep.
You see, you have to know who you are, but you have to learn about that. That's a, work in progress. It's always going on.
Yep.
And so, you can also go to I forgot to tell them, they can go to my website, that Naila, my website will pop up. And my book is, I have a book there that you can look at. Now, my name, Naila G. Baraki. Naila is Hebrew and Arabic, and it means one who succeeds through prayer. And in Hebrew, it's part of man. And Baraki also is in prayer. So I've been living through faith and in prayer. So it's by divine order that, I was given this name to continue on this journey with.
Right. I think my name.
And as you said, Sequestra,
go ahead, Naila. I'm sorry.
You said something that as I told you, I take it with me everywhere. You said whenever you enter into a room, your ancestors come with you. And it's true. So you're 30 years old, the best of your auntie, your grandma, and all those people who have influenced your life. And fortunately, I had so many. I come from a large family. Bring them into that room with you, so that you have that pride and that honor, and you take the best of them and that strength that you may not have in the moment. Pull it from the ancestors, because they have implanted that in you.
Exactly. And I think my name, Satai, was given by one of my teachers, and it means the essence of beauty. And then Satawi means to prosper. That's Kiswahili. So that's where my name comes. I also have a name, White Star, which comes from my interaction with Native people. And so White Star, it was my name was North Star at one time, and then when you get elevated to another level, then it moves up, and so my name became White Star. And so I'm also a fire keeper. I also do sweat lodges. So that's another whole thing we'll talk about. But that's part of living outside the box. So I had a teacher who's on the south side of in Los Angeles, White Eagle. And so White Eagle does sweat lodges. So we would go to sweat lodges, and I started going all the time. Then I was going once a week, and then I learned how to become a fire keeper. So when the sisters came in, I could do the fire keeping from them. I'm also an Ankh carrier with Queen Afua and Baba Samaj. So we've gone through different initiations. We've gone through those kinds of experience, but that's part of us being ready, and then the teacher just kind of comes to you. You're there, and then the next thing you know,
yes,
you're being introduced to somebody, and then they're saying there's this, that. Now, I'm also saying that one should not get initiated in anything that you don't feel comfortable with. To me, if I go to talk to a teacher and they can't explain certain things, I'm not going to be involved. Or sometimes it's just not for me. Like I have some people that got initiated into Ifa, and I didn't. I went to their ceremony. I saw how they got initiated and whatever, but that was not for me. I respect it. I participate in some of their events that they have, but that's not for me, because there's some things that Ifa does. I'm a vegetarian, so I wouldn't be able to participate in a couple of their ceremonies. And so the Baba even laughed, and we had a conversation about it. And then sometimes it's just things that you just go to and just be like, wow, that's really exciting, but that's not for me. So you have to decide what is best for you. I've been to a voodoo initiation where someone became a priestess, and that was really a great experience to see how their process is, but that's not for me, and people that's in Santeria and all these different kinds of different things. But there's you'll feel within you like what you're drawn to, and then that's when you want to kind of check it out a little bit before you just jump into it. But sometimes you'll just feel like you're drawn to it. And so Naila, I'm sure you can probably speak on initiations and how one feels about different initiations.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot out there, a lot of ancient wisdom and rituals and initiations, but you don't, vibe to all of that. I know people in Santeria and Europe, all of these different things, and I think it's beautiful and it's lovely. But it didn't call me, so if it doesn't call you, don't go.
Right. Somebody saying, I don't know what she said. What are the benefits? Sweat lodges. Okay, so I love sweat lodges because when I go into the sweat lodge,
me too,
it allows you to really release what's going on. So we go in there, we have different rounds when you're in a sweat lodge. And so when you're in a sweat lodge, like the first round may be that you pray for your family. The second round may be you pray for the world. And second round may be you pray for yourself. But it allows me to go in. It allows you to release whatever it is that you is going on with you. And so you have to really find someone who's really good at being the facilitator, because the person that's in the sweat lodge really taps into everything that's going on. It's really interesting because every time you go to a sweat, it's going to be different. So sometimes I'll go into a lodge and I can do a sweat and it's like, cool, no problem. Other times I've gone into a lodge where I thought after the second round, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. I think I need to get out of this lodge because it's so hot. So, each time it's something different depending on what's happening with you at that particular time. But the facilitator, one time I was in the lodge and I thought, I'm going to lose it. And all of a sudden she said, White Star, I know something's going on with you. Here's some water. Pour this water over your head and put your head down or whatever. She immediately knew, and I was on the other side of the lodge, that something was going on with me. And it's pitch black in it, so she couldn't have saw me. But it's about her being connected. So that's very, very important. When you go to a lodge, the person needs to be able to explain everything to you. They need to be able to tell you why you're doing whatever. But if I go someplace and you can't explain it to me, I'm not participating because you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot of people that are out there that come to one lodge, then they can open up a lodge and go have it. And that's how a lot of people end up getting I think it was down, somewhere in the Southwest, a guy opened up a sweat lodge. Oh, I know what he did. He opened up a sweat lodge and didn't know what he was doing, and people end up getting sick because when you're in a sweat lodge, they put blankets over. They don't put plastic over, and he put plastic, so all these people engage in this plastic, and they end up dying. So you got to know. I've been in lodges where women have to wear white clothing. I've been in lodge where you go and you're naked in there. So it all depends on who's in charge. Right. I've been where it's all women. I've been where there's men and women as well. So it just depends. But for me, I really love a lodge. I haven't been one in a while, but I love going to a lodge because it allows me to release and just let everything go. Yeah, Ro, you wanted back in?
I love it in. So I'm glad that you see the comments. So that's good. And this is one of the sisters who follow a lot of the shows, and she like me. I see somebody with wisdom and knowledge. I just started asking all kind of questions. I mean, just that I
right.
The other thing
we definitely want to share so that people will understand, our experience. But there's a lot of different experiences.
Right on. I just think it's beautiful that there's
create your own. Yeah.
Right, but it's beautiful to have elders that are willing to share, because sometimes we go through things because we didn't have a base to draw even an ideal from. Right. How does this factor in you guys were finding your mates and your journey?
I done been through a couple of them, so
I should say I specialize in that. I went through a few.
A couple, Lord have mercy. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day about, so now I'm at the point I'm thinking, maybe I want a companion. I've been through a couple of husbands, so I'm thinking maybe I want a companion. I think I'm more of a good girlfriend than I am a good wife, but I do like being involved in a relationship. I really like being involved in a relationship, but I think you have to have someone who's like what they say, equally yoked, or someone who understands who you are. And I think a lot of times I've been in a relationship where people really didn't know who I was. They thought they knew, but they really didn't know who I was. And so sometimes when they find out, it becomes like, whoa, this is who you are. Or, I don't think I can kind of deal with it. Because I had a lot of men that have said to me that, sister, this power is like, what you got going on is too much for me to even, I can't even fathom how that works. And so people become scared. Some people become intimidated. Some people you outgrow them, because when you're on this journey of living outside the box, you don't stay the same. You keep moving. And so you need someone that can keep moving as well. And like with Naila, she's has a really nice man that she's with, because when you're on this journey, we move, which means you get a chance to go and travel. So when you get ready to travel, like you'd be like, oh, okay, I got to go tomorrow. And they don't get that. But if you have somebody who's secure in themselves, when you say, oh, I got to go, I'm going to, to Bali to do a workshop or whatever, they'd be like, oh, okay, that's cool. But they understand, first of all, we're very, very loyal. So we ain't doing nothing when we're out there. We're extremely loyal to the person. But when we feel this within our spirit, we got to move, and we got to move right then and there. And it's real. I know to the average person, it seems really crazy, but when you feel it, you got to go. Naila called him. She said, I'm always trying to Naila in another country. Always,
I had a husband like years ago who I used to bring stuff from other countries, and because of his background and his values and his belief system. Be careful with these beliefs. Pay attention, honey, when they tell you their belief systems. So he burned up all that stuff. We took it in the backyard. He burned all that stuff. So I left him, of course. But I've been married I've been married 32 years. And my husband is my friend. And some places I go, and he's like, yeah, I would love to go there. I always wanted to go to some places I go. He's like, no, baby, you're going to have a good time. And I come back and I tell him my stories, and he listens to my stories while he's cooking me all these amazing things that I love to eat. But he's not going, and he's not going to do a lot of things that I do. And he does his own thing. I enjoy what he does, whether it's something I want to do or not. And he listens, to my stories, and he doesn't judge it. He just looks at me like, that's who you are. Yeah, go do your thing.
Exactly.
You know him. You know my husband. Right. He looks at both of us the same way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And that's what you need, someone, in a relationship, somebody.
But that's important. They don't have to like everything that you like. They just have to respect it. Be your friend. Share values that what's important to you may not be important to the other, but respect that, and and honor me and honor the things that I love.
Right.
Because it's who I am.
Right. Exactly. So, we needed something, my daughter and I, and she was like, I wonder if they got a witch store in Tucson. So, we found a witch store, of course, and we went and got something. And so my brother's like, where y'all been? He's like, to the witch store. He was like, what the hell? So he's like, okay, whatever. So he's real cool about it. Just bring me back some sage. That's all he know. Bring me back some sage, So, you have to have somebody who's who understands who you are, because we go to all different kind of plays and do different things and see what's going on. And sometimes you need certain tools or certain supplies, and so you got to go where the people have it, And so I'm just trying to fill out, like I'm in a new city now, I'm in Tucson, trying to fill it out. San Diego, we had a lot of places we can go and get, a controversial bookstore and all our different crystals, and we would go up into the mountains and pick our own sage and, all those kinds. So now I'm in a different environment. So just trying to figure out the lay of the land and who's who in the zoo. So that's important for me to decide, where I'm going to go and get the things that I need, my sage or my Florida water or my lavender, and since Naila doesn't have the oils anymore, so I have to go out and kind of hunt them down myself. But it's real important to have your tools. And I think next week I'm going to really talk about how to set up your sacred space and all the different tools that one needs to keep one protected and what have you. And I'll show you what the items you really be so you really be conscious or mindful of what you need to purchase. I think I'm going to do that next week, just to share my experience. But there's a lot of different tools. A lot of people do different things. I respect, where people are. Some things I incorporate, some things I don't incorporate. So it just depends. I think also we have to be set up. When you're living outside the box. When I go to people who live outside the box, their kitchens are different. Naila had everything in her kitchen that you could ever ask for, and she had all the spices from countries from all over the world. I mean, she did the best cooking one could ever have. So you want to talk a little bit about your kitchen, Naila, and living out the box and what your kitchen looks like?
Well, thank you. Well, I have crystals in my kitchen. I have stones in my kitchen. I have wild spices. My ceiling is red because energetically, red is they use red in the psychology of buying, but it really inspires me, gives me energy, when I go in there. And I still have that same wok I had about 38 years ago, a black cast iron wok. And I haven't seen one like that since.
Right.
And that wok has been so many places. It has so many flavors in it. But I used to, back then I had with the kitchen, I set the kitchen up energetically so that it's free flowing. And so, I have, you have your, what is that? They used to, I can't think of it, but it's an order. Okay. So the herbs are on one side. I have my juicer, on a, and I have a big crystal that's energizing everything that's
going on. Okay. Huh? I said, were you talking about feng shui?
Yes. Feng shui ran away out of my head. But yeah, feng shui is what I'm talking. So I use a lot of that, kind of order. I also have my ancestors, looking at me and from the dining room into the kitchen, looking at their pictures and thinking about things that they used to make. And, it's inspiring, when I'm, cooking a meal.
Right.
So I have things, I have a lot of African, artifacts. I bring it all in there so that it's a not only a place to eat, and to be calm, but it's also, you're really, at home.
Oh, okay.
Right there in the, in the kitchen. Yeah, I'm still cooking.
Right. One of the ladies was asking about a good substitute for Florida water, but you should be able to find Florida water. But I use lavender. That also will break up the energy in your house. If you want to just break the energy up, you can breathe into it. We'll talk about that next week. We'll breathe into it. You can clap. There's different things you can do. What's another oil you can use besides Florida water and lavender? I've done incense. I've also done incense also to clear energy up.
We used to make. My son used to make incense when he was younger.
I know.
I love clary sage.
Oh, clary sage! Oh my God!
I love clary sage. Yeah, I love clary sage. I love lavender.
You can get that from the Native Americans. Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of things that like Florida water. You can still get Florida water in some of the drugstores.
Yep.
Florida water's been around, for more than 60-something years, in the stores. And now, not only do they have Florida water, places like Whole Food have kind of stepped into it. Yeah, lavender water, because but it's just lavender oil in the water, and you can put it in a diffuser, or you can use it in, lavender. You can take a bath, and it's very calming. Sometimes, sometimes I have problems sleeping. I take a little lavender, a couple of drops, and put it on the pillow, and just, inhale that. And next thing you know,
I spray
and peppermint. We used to use peppermint oil. Actually, peppermint is good for pain, and it's good for headaches.
Right.
Before we start reaching for Tylenol.
Right. That's right.
So there are a lot of oils that are in the Bible that we use for healing that now we've been replaced with Tylenol and Advil, but they're there. Patchouli was always a good oil if you wanted to just meditate or focus or be in your own space. Patchouli, creates an aura of that just kind of puts you in a bubble, and you can focus and concentrate. It's very strong oil. You just need a little bit. Yeah, lots of wonderful oils for everything you can think of.
Uh-oh. Hold on, let me see my little light went out. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Somebody was asking about, we use non-champa. We do use non-champa, Satya Sai Baba. We do non-champa. We've done that.
I love that.
Yeah, I do like Satya Sai Baba.
Yeah, I love non-champa.
Non-champa, yes.
And I bought some when I went to meet Sai Baba.
Oh, yeah. Of course you did.
I even got Sai Baba.
Yep.
So 2 questions. One, what is the purpose of when people capture rainwater? What's the purpose of rainwater, and why is that different than other water? And then the second thing is the Indian people from India, their incense different than the ones that we see now, like when folks be selling at the flea market? Is there some kind of difference with them and their scents? Because they have like a whole bunch of different incense that they use.
For me, I always try to look for something that's pure. I don't like a lot of the incense people are making now has alcohol in them, and so I try to find something that's really kind of pure. There was a guy named Fred Saul. I think his name was SOL. I don't know if he sells those incense. I could open up his pack and smell the incense would almost go into a meditation. I mean, that's just how. So I'm going to try next week to make sure I have his name and what have you. But for me, sometimes I do go to Indian stores because it just seems a lot pure. I do buy some. If I see brothers on the street, if I see what their oils are, to make sure they're not a lot of alcohol, because for me, that bothers me when you have to burn the alcohol. I know, Naila, that you used to, Omar used to make incense, and I know your incense was very, very pure. So you want to talk a little bit about what you did with those incense and how you made them?
Well, the first thing is to use a pure oil. Sometimes some of those oils are cheap oils.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say if you can't put it on your skin, on your mouth, you shouldn't be sniffing it because some people use a lot of chemicals. And so what Omar and I did, which your brother taught us, and a Native American, was that he used to dip in the pure oil, and we had a little base of coconut oil, and then let it sun dry instead of putting it in the oven or baking it or doing some other chemical alteration. And it lasts summer. It took a little longer, to dry and set, but it was worth it because we all, he ran out of every time, and it was beautiful. So it's the oils, and when the oil if it gets and bake it, now you may smell the fragrance in the pack, but when you burn it, it's like, you ever said, and it doesn't smell anything like what you sniffed once you started burning all your chemicals. So it's one of the quality of oil. In India, they have a lot of gods, goddesses. They create a lot of oils for different ritual, different meanings. But again, in different countries, the sandalwood here is not the same scent of sandalwood, in India. So sometimes, it's more, fragrant, or it's a different, enhancing type of scent. So I bought incense everywhere, and I always found that some to be gave me more of a feeling, especially if I'm going, spiritual, if you're looking for that spiritual type of energy. Some of them are blessed. Sometimes they pray over them. They do lots of rituals over the incense, and that energy, kind of captures you when you light the fire and you sit back and you're like, oh, this feels so good,
Right. Exactly.
So chemicals can't do that for you.
I think that vibration is very, very important, because even when I buy jewelry and whatever, I try to buy some from the artisan, and I try to get to know like the artisan and the vibe of the person, because you don't want things on you or around you that have negative energy, or when they make it, they're putting some vibe into it. It's kind of like when you're cooking food, you want somebody to cook and they want to put love into it. And if somebody's got a bad attitude and they're cooking food, then you don't want to even be dealing with the food. So for me, it's all about when you're making the incense, what are you thinking? What is your vibration? What is your energy? And so I that's why I try to find someone that I have had some kind of relationships with, when I buy incense, when they're making the incense. And then when I buy them from the store, it's exactly what I've dealt with before, and I know the incense. I also do research on stuff as well. I mean, that's important for me to do. So, when you're living outside the box, that's one thing about it. When you're always doing research. You ain't just, when you're living outside the box, you ain't just grabbing stuff. You want to know, what is this? Where's it come from? I buy stuff in the grocery store. Okay, this is great. Where did it come from? Did it come from here? Did it come from Mexico? Did it come from California? So I'm always trying to see where things are, because I understand the vibration and how those vibrations do affect the body and the soul as well.
It's important.
Very important. Very important.
It's important. It's important. A lot in my journey, and always wanting to learn. I love to learn. I love to read. And people say, "Oh, you're into this, you're into all these different things." But for me, it's one thing. Mind, body healing, mind, body health, mind, body wealth. It's one. And any area that has not been explored, that has not been brought to the forefront, that may be a blockage or limited belief in your life, we have to explore that. So I did it through mental health, rehabilitation, medicine, everything. And I still do it to this day.
Right.
Because there's always so much to learn. And then when you learn it, you need to use it. I remember there's some things that I had on the shelf for a long time, and I was glad it was there when I went to reach for it. But because now you need it, because sometimes you'll buy stuff and you're attracted to it, but then the time comes you need to come to understand it and use it, really can't. So this is so interesting. Thinking about the journey.
When you're on the journey and you open yourself up, all these different things just come to you, like teachers, or you'll be standing on the corner, you meet somebody, or you'll be somewhere and somebody invites you to something, and from there you meet somebody else, or sometimes you get invited to a lecture and you think, I know all this stuff. And then when you get there, person will say just one thing and you'll be like, okay, that's why I need to be here to hear that. Or you'll meet somebody from it. So anytime I get that inkling to go somewhere, I will go to it, even though sometimes I'll be like, I don't know why I'm here. But every time I do it, then there's something that benefits me that comes out of it. So that's why I tell people, always listen to your gut. That's the most important thing. Even if you have a teacher or a guru or whatever it is, if something doesn't feel right, do not follow that. If it doesn't feel right for you, there's energy work that I do for myself. And I know sometimes it's supposed to be clockwise, but for me, it doesn't work. I have to do counterclockwise. I don't know. That's just me. So a lot of times you have to really listen to yourself, because everything, when you're born, everything is given to you. Everything is within you. So when it starts to come out, you just have to listen to it and follow it. And sometimes it may seem a little strange, but when you get to the end, you'll be like, okay, now I get it. Now I know what it means. So I think,
yeah, and something you said about resistance. Oh, I'm sorry, Wes.
Go ahead. No, finish. I'm done. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were saying that sometimes you felt resistance when you went, then you found out, yeah, I'm supposed to be here.
Right.
I was just going to say, explore that resistance. Find out what it is that you're resisting, because if it's calling you and you're resisting it, yeah, you need to go. But then you need to learn, about your resistance, so that when it comes back to you, you know that it's just in your head, because that's just fear. So yeah.
For me, the resistance is just being lazy. I just didn't feel like putting clothes on and going to it. That's all it was. It's just like, I don't feel like getting it. But then when
simple as that.
Right.
So I don't be bothered with that.
Yeah, I don't be bothered with that. And then I was like, oh my God, yeah, okay, cool. So, sometimes it's just like that. But anytime you say do something, I'm like, yeah, come on, let's go. I'll be like, okay, Nike, let's go. And we go, and we be like, I can do anything. God, for sure.
I'll be sequestered. Come on, we just going for a ride. We'll be back in a little bit.
Yeah,
we'll be gone the whole time, and be from one thing to another. Sequestered, like, what happened to the? I said, we're gonna go there, but we're going over here next. Girl, I know you want to see this. You ever seen this before? No. Let's go. Oh my God, And she be right there with me. Thank you so much, Sequest, because you were always down for the journey. I love it.
And then after we do all that, she said, "Ooh, I gotta go pick up Omar from school." Like, what? Wait a minute, you gotta pick him up from school? And you know what I wanted to say when you talk about Omar, because when you live outside the box, your children don't go to like traditional schools. So Omar was always going to non-traditional kind of schools, and even if they do go, like my daughter, we went to a public school, but it was not a traditional public school, because you always are looking for something to enhance your child, something to make them wander and explore, So you want to talk about some of Omar's schools? Omar has some very interesting schools.
Yeah, Omar was, when Omar was younger, he was, in a private, he was in a private school, and he was learning about Capoeira, and Black history, and he was like 3 or 4. I mean, he was in a play when he was like 4, and he was Kuki Chakalia, and and learning about the principles, and along with math and English, but they taught mathematics differently, because they taught it in a rhythm, because it was created by some people cannot teach mathematics. They may have the credential, but everybody can't teach math. I remember being in school, everybody couldn't teach math. But so he was learning a lot about himself. So by the time he was in public school, which you remember, and the teacher was talking to him disrespectfully, like he wasn't anybody, they called me, and of course, Auntie Sequestra showed up, and like, yeah, well, they were the child, because you were always very much into the children and how they're being treated. And so you showed up, as well. So he had, I always kept him somewhere where he could, expand, his mind and learn more about who he is and from which he have come beyond slavery, because slavery is one journey, but there was a journey long before that, before that dissension, when we're kings and queens. So you need to learn about that.
Okay. Oh yeah. So yeah, so there was a lot more. So I guess we're getting toward the end. I really appreciate you coming on, Naila, kind of talking about living out the box. So you've been to Bali, you've been to China, you've been to you've been to Thailand, you've been, I mean, Mexico. You're always over somewhere.
I love Thailand. I love Thai food. Yeah, and you know, I've never been to a country where I was called an African American or anything. They always see you, they go, Africa, we are happy that I was like, yes, you know. Except in Europe, where they called me a Yankee, and I didn't get that. I didn't understand that. What? So yeah, Africa, Canada, Japan, Korea. Yeah. Oh my God, love it all. You know, everywhere, but just being out of the box and just learn, like you said, respectfully learning about other people's cultures, and so much of it being like, you know, our grandparents and our ancestors, you know, because there's no place we haven't walked through. Right. So as we walk through these places, you know, we get to see ourselves all over again in these different countries, even though their features are a little bit different. You know, I mean, I remember in China when they was excited that I loved watermelon. I was like, what? I love watermelon. You know, and they eat it every day for digestion. And a lot of us are like, you know, I've grown. You know, I'm an executive. No, I don't eat watermelon anymore. And I'm like, that's all right. That's the truth. But it ain't got nothing to do with it. Right. In most places in the world I've been, they eat watermelon and they healthy.
Right. Right. So, you know, I mean, that is so important. But I think, you know, what I want to make sure that people understand, when you are rooted in your cultural base, when you live outside the box, people will respect you, because no matter where we go, they can tell we're African. We're real clear about that. And then, so a lot of times when you come in like that, you carry a certain aura. And usually when I go in, people be like, come on, let me make a deal with you before these white people come in, because, you know, they're going to pay the higher price. So come on and do that. And so they treat you a lot different than they do when other folks come up. Or I was someplace and the sister said, where you trying to go? And so I said, I'm trying to go. Okay, let me tell you, but you don't need to pay for these cabs. Let me tell you, this is what you need to do. And this white boy walked up. She said, can I help you? Would you please step back? I'm talking to her. And so when I stepped back, she said, no, I'm going to give him the cab. This is what you need to do. And she told me what to do. So a lot of times when you, like I said, when you walk in, when you're confident in who you are, and who you are, and people going to be attracted to that, and they come and give you all kinds of deals and what you need to do and what have you. And I'm not trying to be a white person. Yes. Walk up in there. I'm Shaquesta Satawi, and this is who I am. And, you know, there they are. So I just want to, you know, tell people living outside the box is a lot of fun, but you got to be disciplined. You got to do what do what needs to be done. You got to listen to your gut, because sometimes your gut say you need to zig, and you trying to zag. You better start zigging, because when you out there, you got to, you know, zigging and zagging all day long. So it's been. I would not change anything that I've done, because it's been such a great experience. I've traveled back and forth across the country. Lived in a tent for 3 years. That's another whole story. You know, living in a tent and what that was all about.
That sounds like love, the question.
Yeah, that's for sure. But it's hard. But you know what? Out of that experience, I learned all about the land. I learned all about, I can come and step on my land and feel that somebody had been on my land. Oh, wow. I know how to live outside. I know what you need to do. So I learned a lot from that experience that I would never. And then my granddaughters came to visit me, so they learned. So now when they travel and they go someplace and people say, oh, you know, you got to, this way you got to go to the bathroom. They're like, cool, I can dig something and go to the bathroom. I ain't tripping on that. So I think those experiences broadens who we are, and it keeps our mind alert, and it keeps us seeking knowledge, you know. And I think that's the most important thing, to be able to seek that knowledge and be open, you know. That's, I mean, we've
gotta be open.
Gotta be open. Yeah. So I think next week
mindset is important.
Go ahead, Naila.
Sorry, we get. No, I'm reminiscing over here. No, I was in India, and I was with a family, and somebody might say that, you know, some people were poor. They call them third world countries, they're first world countries, but they broke bread. We ate, we laughed, and everything. And they said, well, you know, because they only in South India, they only bake for the day. When it's gone, it's gone. Mm-hmm. But there's no lack. Their mindset, they know there's more tomorrow. Right. They're not tripping on, you know, or run out of anything. You know, and that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the birds show up every morning, they don't have a menu, they don't have a cup. They show up, they know they're gonna get fed. And when I'm traveling, people, their mindset is like, we're open to receive it and we receive. So you can't go in with a closed mind and you know and expect to receive, although a lot of us do. So you got to be open and you got to be your authentic self, because in a lot of cultures, when you show up, if you try to show up any other way than yourself, they know it right away, and they will not do business with you.
Yep.
That I learned.
Mm-hmm. That's important. That's so important. So you got a final word for today, Naila? For living out
your authentic. Not the box. If someone calls you a weirdo, say thank you. Thank you. And keep on moving. It takes courage, but it takes courage to live. So you want to live. Live. That's the word I got for you today. Live.
Yeah, right.
Live your best life.
And that's what I want to start off, leave with what I started off with. What good is it to think outside of the box if you lack the courage to live outside of the box? So I've been living out it. I love it. And, you know, weird or whatever it is, but it's who I am and I feel good about it. And that is so important. And as I get older, like I just realized like next year, man, I'll be 70. So I'm like, I'm really excited about that.
What does that mean?
I know, it's like moving into another whole realm. So I'm like, oh yeah. So no telling what's gonna be going on or what, you know, in my 70s. So I'm excited about that. You know, very, very excited about that. So Ro,
great time.
I know. So I got to come to New York and hang out with you and do all that stuff and go see Ro and all that good stuff. So I definitely tell everybody to, you know, subscribe to Earth Mama Network, you know, and hit your notifications so you know when on Ro stuff all week long. And she has some great movies that she's presenting to us that we can view. So I'm just really loving all of this and all that she's doing. And the Brothers show is going to be coming on. I think it's today, right, Ro?
Yep, at 6 p.m. Brother. That's all they said they wanted. Brother.
And it was really good last time. So
that's great.
I'm definitely going to look at that. So everybody's.
I love a lot of those movies.
Oh, the movies? Oh, yeah.
It's good to be reminded about blackness.
Hey, I grew up on the superheroes. That's what I recognize in those movies. And I did the one last night. I was like, I really grew up on these movies for real.
Yeah, they're really good. We lived them, so that was right up in.
We did. Yeah,
for sure. All right, thank you so much. We will see you all next week, and we're going to be talking about.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, sacred spacing. We're going to talk about how you can change the vibe in your house, no matter where you are, and I'll have some little tools that you can, you know, do. So I'm really excited about that. So we're going to talk about creating your sacred space next week. So look forward to seeing you all. And that's going to be Memorial Day weekend. So come on and check out your sacred spaces. You know, people are going to be coming by to visit you. You got to learn how to clean that energy up after they leave. Then, you know, when the brothers leave your house, you got to be able to clear it up. You know, so we'll talk about that next week.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey.
All right. Thank you so much. Naila, stay on. Naila.
All right, lady.
Okay. All right. Peace.
All right, sisters. Peace. Blessings.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube, Earth Mama Network.